I could describe God of War's story as a mix between The Last of Us and Journey. After all, the story is simply about Kratos and his son's quest to reach the peak of the highest mountain so he could spread his wife's ashes. Kratos was a violent and hot-headed man driven by revenge in the previous entries, but here we see that times have changed him. His parenting was quite questionable early on. He was way too hard on Atreus, and even when his son would do well, he would still have a lot of trouble expressing his love, and I can see why. I mean, he has had a rough history from accidentally murdering his family to going on a Greek god killing spree. So when he finally gets a new life, he's afraid of losing his son, the only thing driving his motives.
Slow down, boy.
We do what we please, boy. Here. Boy. 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 Atreus! Boy. Atreus! Atreus!
Really, Kratos? Throughout the game, we see Kratos' distance slowly shifting towards a deeper connection with his son. Their interactions are some of the best parts of the story.
You gonna carry that everywhere?
I just might.
And that's the beauty of the protagonists. They're not one-dimensional. As smart and aware as Atreus is for a young boy, he isn't perfect and neither is Kratos. Parenting isn't easy, and it's nice to see that Kratos isn't portrayed as an all-knowing man simply because he's an adult and the father to Atreus. We see Kratos doing his best to set an example for his son even though his ego can get in the way at times. Kratos has been keeping his emotions in check as he realized that vengeance and anger clouds decision-making. Every time Atreus would start to develop a bad mindset, he tended to it as he didn't want his son to make the same mistakes he did.
Your anger. You can get lost in it.
Atreus transforms from being a naive, sheltered child desperately seeking approval from his father to a young boy who finds himself. For now. He's only like 11 and I'm pretty sure he's going to act up again in the sequels. There's that one scene where Atreus finds out that he's a god. Instead of being upset, he started to get cocky. He acted like he was invincible and demanded to be treated like, well, a god, until Kratos knocked some sense into him. The other characters stood out as well. While it was entertaining enough to be adventuring with Kratos and Atreus, Mimir's inclusion in the last half of the story was great. He not only provided stories and intellect, his sarcastic remarks were fun to hear. I'll admit, I underestimated Baldur when he was first introduced, mostly because he looked scrawny when compared to Kratos, so his Dragon Ball-esque strength caught me off guard. His whole immortality and mother issues were understandable, considering how horrible it must be to never die or feel any pain since, you know, that's practically how most living things live. This made his eventual passing satisfying, sad, and peaceful at the same time. Freya didn't stand out too much for me during most of the game. She was a typical witch doctor who helps the main characters and is secluded in the woods. Her house is freaking awesome though. She lives under a giant tortoise tree thing. How cool is that? What caught me off guard was the turn of events during the final portion of the story. After Kratos kills Baldur, the rage boiling from inside of her was gripping to watch.
That is my promise!
He saved your life!
He robbed me of everything!
Kudos to the voice actor and the team in charge of her animations. The only characters that I really didn't care much for was Modi and Magni. Apart from their battles, they're kind of just there. I think they died? I honestly don't remember. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the real deal. The two characters with the strongest plot armor, Brok and Sindri. They were absolutely hilarious, breaking many common tropes. I cracked up every time one of them had a long explanation on how they were always conveniently appearing, whenever the player needed to take a break with some inventory management or the story needed to advance.
I sometimes wonder if there was once some sort of accident in his brain.
We have been away too long.
One amusing part was when Atreus called Sindri's attention about his fixation with his brother Brok, and each time you browsed his shop after that, he was so passive-aggressive.
Oh, I'm glad I'm still useful. Oh, did you want to say something? I'm sure you'll come back. when you want something.
Oh, and shout out to Jormungandr. He's a little scary, but he's cool despite being in the background for almost the entire game. God of War definitely deserves all the attention it's been getting. It's a fantastic game with beautiful graphics and music combined with a gripping story and intense gameplay. Due to the no-cut camera, each scene was heightened by a sense of intimacy. The battles were a spectacle to behold. Emotional parts of the story were also made all the more powerful with the cinematography. Basically, my eyes were glued to the screen. Despite a lack of enemy variety, the major battles were fast-paced and heart-pounding despite being few and far in between. Overall, God of War sets a new bar to how innovative AAA games could be. Feel free to like and leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about God of War.